My family's lake cabin was supposed to be our peaceful escape. It's a place my grandfather built with his own two hands, a sanctuary from the noise of the world. But it turned into a battlefield when the neighborhood's self-appointed queen, the HOA president, demanded my keys for her personal guests. She screamed. She threatened. She tried to turn the whole community against me. And she even called the cops, totally convinced they'd be on her side. She never, ever expected what would happen when they showed up. This is the story of how one woman's entitled. The calm before the storm. It all kicked off on a perfect Friday afternoon. The kind of day that just makes you exhale. I'd driven up to the lake, watching the city shrink in my rearview mirror, replaced by pine trees and the promise of quiet. The cabin isn't just wood and nails. It's a time capsule of memories. My name is Malik Carter, and this cabin has been in my family for over 60 years. My granddad, a man who believed in building things that last, cleared this land himself. He built this cabin board by board, long before the perfect lawns and matching mailboxes of the Lakeview Estates community ever existed. My name is on the deed. It is, and always has been, private property. It predates the Homeowners Association by decades, a fact that was a quiet point of pride for my family, our little slice of independence in a world obsessed with conformity. The Lakeview Estates community that popped up around our property is picturesque. On the surface, it's the American dream from a brochure. Wives jog in matching tracksuits, husbands trade tips on lawn fertilizer, and kids ride bikes on spotless sidewalks. But under that glossy finish, there's a tension, a sense of order kept not by neighborly respect, but by a rule book thicker than a phone book, enforced by one woman, Constance Fairchild. Constance was the HOA president, a title she wore like a crown. She was a woman in her late 50s, with a helmet of blonde hair that seemed to defy wind and weather, and eyes that were always scanning, always judging. She patrolled the neighborhood in her golf cart, a clipboard glued to her hand, hunting for violations. A trash can left out an hour too long, a garden gnome she deemed aesthetically disruptive. No infraction was too small. The neighbors sort of wearily accepted her. They'd complain in hushed tones at barbecues, swapping stories of her petty tyranny. But nobody ever challenged her directly. She'd been present for a decade, and her power felt absolute, cemented by years of running unopposed and her mastery of the HOA's maze of bylaws. For years, we'd coexisted peacefully enough. She knew my cabin wasn't part of her little kingdom. She couldn't find me. She couldn't tell me what color to paint my trim. And I think, on a deep level, that drove her crazy. My grandfather had made sure of it when the HOA first formed, politely but firmly declining to join. Our property line was clearly marked, a silent declaration of our independence. To Constance, I was a glitch in her perfectly curated matrix. And as I was about to find out, she'd been waiting for a chance to fix that glitch for a long time. The unreasonable demand. I was on the porch with a book in my lap, smelling the pine and listening to the lake lapping against the shore. It was the picture of peace. And then, that peace was shattered by the crunch of tires on my gravel driveway. It was Constance's golf cart, parked aggressively, like she was planting a flag on conquered land. She marched up my path, her face a mask of grim purpose. No friendly wave, no hello. She stopped at the bottom of my porch steps, hands on her hips, and looked at my cabin not as a home, but as an asset. "I'm going to need your keys," she said. The words were so blunt I was sure I'd misheard her. I lowered my book. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your keys," she repeated, drawing out each word like she was talking to a toddler. "I have family coming for the long weekend. My guest rooms are full, and the hotels are booked. My sister and her husband will be staying here." She wasn't asking. She was telling me. The sheer, uncut audacity of it was breathtaking. I just stared at her, waiting for the punchline. It never came. I finally found my voice, keeping it as level as I could. "Constance, I'm sorry, but that's not going to work. This is my home. I'm using it." A flash of annoyance crossed her face, as if my refusal was a tiny, unexpected bump in the road. "Don't be difficult, Malik," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "The Community bylaws are very clear about using shared resources during peak times. We all have to be a little flexible. I stood up, my disbelief hardening into resolve. Constance, this isn't a shared resource. This is my private property. It has never been part of the HOA. You know this. She waved a dismissive hand. Details. We're community. We help each other. Now, are the keys on your ring? Or do you have spare set? This was getting surreal. It felt like arguing with someone from another reality where their wants are universal laws. I walked to the edge of the porch and pointed to the old, mossy stone marking the edge of my land. Constance, that is the property line. Everything on this side of that stone is mine. It has nothing to do with you or the Lakeview Estates HOA. You have zero authority here. Her face tightened. The mask of civility was cracking. I am the president of this association, she said, her voice rising. And that means I am in charge of what happens in this community. We have rules. We have standards. You don't just get to do whatever you want. You're right, I said, my own voice hardening. I get to do whatever I want on my property. And right now, I want you to leave it. She looked like she might actually short-circuit. Her mouth opened and closed, but nothing came out. She was so used to people just rolling over that my firm no had crashed her system. Finally, her eyes narrowed. You'll be hearing from me, she hissed. This is a direct violation. You have no idea the trouble you've just made for yourself. She spun on her heel, marched back to her golf cart, and sped away, leaving a cloud of dust and entitlement behind her. I stood there, my heart pounding, the peaceful afternoon totally wrecked. I had a sick feeling this was far from over. This wasn't just about a room for her sister. This was about power, and I had just challenged her throne. Section 3, the escalation. I tried to put out of my mind. A few hours later, though, as the sun was setting, I saw the golf cart returning. I wasn't going to be caught off guard this time. I met her at the edge of my driveway, arms crossed. She was holding a sheaf of papers, stapled and glowing with highlighted sections. She brandished it at me like a weapon. I told you you'd be hearing from me, she said with a triumphant smirk. I've brought the bylaws. I suggest you read them before you make your situation any worse. No need, Constance, I said patiently. I'm not a member of your association. Ignorance isn't an excuse, she snapped. Article 7, Section 4. Community assets and emergency accommodations. It clearly states that unoccupied or underutilized properties within the community's designated area may be requisitioned by the board for temporary use to accommodate overflow guests. She looked so proud, so sure she'd found the silver bullet. A bylaw like that would be legally questionable at best, but she presented it as gospel. Let me see that, I said. She handed it over, her smirk widening. I scanned the paragraph. Then I looked up at her. A few problems here, Constance. First, this property isn't unoccupied or underutilized. I'm standing right here. Second, you didn't give 24-hour notice. You demanded my keys on the spot. And third, and most importantly, what part of within the community's designated geographic area do you not understand? This property isn't in that area. I paused. So, let me ask you, can you show me one document, covenant, a deed, an agreement with my signature on it, that legally ties this land to your HOA? The smirk evaporated. It's understood, she sputtered. Everyone knows the lakefront is part of the community. That's not a legal argument, Constance. That's just your opinion. You have no jurisdiction here. End of story. That's when the mask didn't just crack, it shattered. Her face twisted with a rage that was genuinely shocking. You people, she shrieked, her voice echoing in the quiet evening. You come here. You think you're better than everyone, and you think the rules don't apply to you. This has been a respectable, cooperative community for decades, and we don't need your kind bringing your attitude here. The words, you people, just hung there, thick and ugly. The subtext was now just text. This wasn't about bylaws or guest rooms. It was about a black man telling a powerful white woman no. And she could not handle it. Her shouting had attracted attention. Porch lights flicked on. I could see silhouettes of neighbors watching. I felt a flush of anger and humiliation. She was turning my sanctuary into a public spectacle. That was when I knew I had to protect myself. I calmly reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and hit record. I held it up, making sure she could see the red light was on. "Constance," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. "You are on my property. You are yelling at me. You just made a racially charged statement. Everything from this point on is being recorded for my protection." Seeing the phone was like throwing gasoline on a fire. She recoiled, then her fury doubled. "Recording me? How dare you? That's another violation. Privacy infringement." "Not on my own property, it isn't," I said calmly. "I'm asking you for the last time. Please leave." She stared at the phone, then at my face, her mind racing. Defeated for now, but far from done, she spat on the ground near my feet. "This isn't over," she snarled, before stomping back to her golf cart and peeling out of my driveway again. I stood there, phone still in hand, and saw the neighbors. Some quickly turned away, pretending they hadn't seen. Others gave me looks that were a mix of pity and something colder judgment. In a community that prized quiet conformity, the person at the center of the conflict, regardless of who started it, was the problem. I felt totally alone. I was on my own little island, and the sharks were circling. The smear campaign. The next morning, I found a crisp, cream-colored envelope in my mail. It wasn't addressed to me, but to current lakefront resident, with the official Lakeview Estates HOA logo at the top. My stomach tightened. It was from her. The letter was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive propaganda. A community security and values alert, signed by Constance Fairchild, President. It never used my name, but it didn't have to. Every word was aimed at me. It talked about new elements disrupting the neighborhood's harmony. It mentioned an uncooperative individual on the lakefront who refused to participate in community traditions. It warned of dangers from those who believe they are above the rules. But the last paragraph made my blood run cold. "It is the duty of this board," she wrote, "to protect the shared values and character of our community. We encourage residents to report any unusual or disruptive behavior to the HOA immediately. Together, we can ensure Lakeview Estates remains the safe and harmonious community we all cherish." The dog whistles were deafening. New elements. Hostility. Unusual behavior. She was painting me as a threat. This was a smear campaign, designed to isolate me and justify whatever she was planning next. Later that day, my one ally, a friendly retired teacher named Dave, came over holding the same letter. "You see this garbage?" he said, shaking his head. "This is classic Constance. She can't win a fair fight, so she does this. Trying to turn everyone against you with coded language. Protecting community values is her line when she's targeting someone." "People are buying it," I said, frustrated. "I'm getting cold shoulders all over." "Don't let it get to you," Dave advised, though he looked worried. "Most of them are just scared of her. But what she's doing is harassment, and given the racial undertones, it's skating dangerously close to being the legal discrimination under the Fair Housing Act." Dave's support helped, but Constance had successfully framed the narrative. I wasn't a homeowner defending his property anymore. I was a problem to be managed. CTA, call to action. Things were going from a simple dispute to something much uglier. She was trying to isolate me, to paint me as the villain in my own home, all because I wouldn't bend. What would you have done? How do you fight back when someone in power is turning your neighbors against you? Let me know in the comments, because what she did next, she never saw coming. Section 5, the takedown. The final showdown happened Sunday afternoon. I was packing my car when I saw her coming. And she wasn't alone. She had brought her posse. 2 grim-faced guys from the board and another woman from the architectural committee. They marched onto my property like a militia. Constance looked absolutely furious, emboldened by her backup. "We have had enough," she announced, her voice booming. "We, the board of the Lakeview Estates Homeowners Association, have held an emergency vote. You are on community property, and due to your hostile behavior, We are officially revoking your access. The claim was so blatantly false, it was almost funny. Community property? Constance, I have the deed. This is my land. You can't revoke my access to my own home. We can and we have, the other woman chimed in. You forfeited your rights when you refused to cooperate. Constance stepped forward, hand outstretched. Give me the keys. We are securing the property. You can collect your things under HOA supervision later. This was it, an attempt to physically and illegally seize my property. My heart was hammering, but my voice was ice cold. I pulled out my phone again, camera rolling. Constance, you and your friends are trespassing, I said clearly. You have no authority here. You are trying to steal my property. Get off my land immediately. If you don't, I'm calling the police. She scoffed. Go ahead. Call them. They know me. They will escort you off the premises for causing a disturbance. And then, in the ultimate act of hubris, she pulled out her own phone. In fact, I'll save you the trouble. She dialed 911. Her voice became shaky, filled with fake fear. Yes, I need an officer at Lakeview Estates, she said. There's a man here. He's become very aggressive. He's trespassing on community property and refusing to leave. He's threatening us. We're afraid of what he might do. My jaw dropped. She was lying to the police, painting me as a dangerous black man, threatening a group of white homeowners. It was a vile, calculated, and potentially deadly move. The 20 minutes we waited felt like an eternity. Her supporters stood there, smirking, sure the law was on their side. Neighbors were openly standing on their lawns, watching. I just stood my ground, phone held steady, recording everything. Finally, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up. A deputy stepped out, a tall man with a calm, professional look. His eyes scanned the scene. The group of four on my lawn, me by my car, phone in hand, and the audience of neighbors. Constance rushed him, launching into her performance. Officer, thank you for coming. This man has been causing trouble all weekend. He is illegally occupying this cabin, a community asset, and when we confronted him, he became aggressive. He's trespassing and we need him removed. The deputy listened patiently, his expression unreadable. Then he turned to me. Sir, what's your side of the story? I took a deep breath. Officer, my name is Malacarter. This is my private property. My family has owned it for over 60 years. My name is on the deed. It has never been part of the HOA. Ms. Fairchild demanded I turn over my house to her guests. When I refused, she started harassing me, sent defamatory letters to the neighborhood, and has now shown up to illegally seize my home. She is trespassing. She is making threats. I held out a folder. I have the deed, my ID, and the latest property tax bill right here. And I have video of this entire confrontation, plus the one from yesterday where she was yelling at me. The deputy took the folder and reviewed the documents. He looked at the deed, then the tax record. He walked over to the old stone property marker and looked back at where Constance and her friends were standing, squarely on my side of it. He walked back, his face grim. He handed me my folder. Then he turned to Constance, his voice low but carrying unmistakable authority. Ma'am, he said, do you have any legal documentation? A covenant, a signed agreement, that includes this specific parcel of land in your Homeowners Association. Constance's face went pale. It sits on the community map, the bylaws. She stammered, shuffling her papers. But she had nothing that legally bound my property to her HOA. The deputy held up a hand. Ma'am, based on the legal documents Mr. Carter provided and the clear property markers, this is his private property. It is not part of your HOA. You and your friends are currently trespassing. The smirks on her supporters' faces vanished. You could hear a collective gasp from the lawns. This was not how this was supposed to go. The deputy wasn't done. Furthermore, filing a false police report is a serious offense. What you described on the phone is not what I see here. I suggest you and your friends return to your own properties immediately before this becomes a legal matter for you. The public humiliation was total. Constance Fairchild, ruler of Lakeview Estates, had been exposed as a liar and a bully by the very authority she was sure would back her. Utterly defeated, she turned and made the long, silent walk of shame back to her golf cart, her entourage trailing behind her. Section 6. The Aftermath. I thanked the deputy, who gave me a curt nod and a piece of advice. Get a restraining order. As the cruiser left, the show was over. The watching neighbors suddenly found their lawns fascinating and disappeared inside. But the silence wouldn't last. The internet was about to take over. That evening, I did exactly what I said I would. I edited the video into a single damning clip. Her demand for my keys, her "you people" rant, and the finale with the deputy calmly dismantling her authority. I posted it online with a simple title. HOA president tries to illegally seize my family's cabin, calls cops, and it backfires. I went to bed. When I woke up, my phone had melted. The video had gone viral. Millions of views. My story was everywhere. The court of public opinion had convened, and the verdict was unanimous. Constance Fairchild became HOA Karen, an internet villain. The comments were a tidal wave of outrage. People found the Lakeview Estates HOA page and flooded it with one-star reviews calling for her removal. The backlash was so intense that the HOA board was forced to act. Facing a PR nightmare and the very real threat of lawsuits for harassment and discrimination, their hand was forced. 2 days later, the HOA's website was updated with a terse statement. Constance Fairchild has resigned from the board of directors, effective immediately. The fallout was dramatic. Over the next year, a surprising number of for sale signs popped up in front of the homes of her staunchest supporters. Others started what I called the apology tour, stopping by my cabin with pies and strained smiles, claiming they never knew the full story. I accepted their apologies coolly. Legally, I followed the deputy's advice. My lawyer sent a formal cease and desist letter to Constance personally. We also put the HOA on notice regarding the defamatory letter, making it clear any future harassment would be met with a lawsuit. She became a ghost in the neighborhood she once ruled. Conclusion. I still go to the lake cabin. It's quiet now, peaceful. It's what it was always meant to be, a sanctuary. My sanctuary. This whole mess taught me a few things. It taught me that bullies often have power that's just a house of cards. It taught me the importance of knowing your rights, documenting everything, and standing your ground calmly when you know you're right. In the end, the law and the deputy who did his job by the book had my back. But a community is only as good as the people in it. It's not about forcing conformity. It's about respecting each other's rights. Entitlement and racism have no place in a real community. My grandfather built that cabin to be a place of strength and independence, and I was able to honor his legacy by making sure it stayed that way. Thanks for listening to my story. If you liked it and want more content about standing up for your rights, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.